Hi, in this video I'll help you get to know your car a little better. At the end of this video I've put together a straightforward infographic that summarizes all the key points. Like, subscribe and comment below. It really helps.
All right, let's get right into it. Today we're tackling one of the most common, and let's be honest, one of the most confusing check engine light codes you can get, P0171. We're going to demystify what System 2 Lean actually means, and by the end of this, you'll be a car detective, ready to crack this case wide open.
So there it is. That little light comes on, you plug in your code reader, and bam, P0171. And your mind just starts racing, right? Is this a huge deal? Is this going to cost me a fortune? Well, stick around because we're going to answer those two big questions and give you a clear game plan.
Ah yes, that little orange light glowing on your dash, nobody likes to see it. It's usually a sign of an impending headache. But you know what? It doesn't have to be. Just think of it as your car giving you the very first clue in a mystery. So let's start gathering the evidence and solve the case of P0171. Okay, first things first, we gotta learn the language. What is your car's computer actually trying to tell you when it throws out a code that says System 2 Lean on Bank 1? It sounds super technical, I know, but I promise you it's way simpler than you think. Let's break it down.
The first part, lean mixture, is all about your engine's diet. See, it needs a perfectly balanced meal of air and fuel to run right. A lean mixture means that balance is way off. It's getting way too much air and not nearly enough fuel. And just like us, when its diet is off, it doesn't run very well.
So what about that Bank 1 part? Well, that's just the location. It's the clue telling you where the problem is. If you've got a V-shaped engine, like a V6 or a V8, Bank 1 is the side that has the number 1 cylinder. That's almost always the driver's side. Now, if you've got an inline engine, like a 4-cylinder, you only have one bank, so Bank 1 is the whole shebang. This really helps visualize it. Think of it like a balancing act. Our code, P0171, is over on the lean side. It's getting way too much air. The total opposite of that would be a rich condition, which means too much fuel and not enough air. Understanding this balance is absolutely central to figuring out what's wrong. Okay, so we know what the crime is: too much air in the engine's diet. Now, it's time to line up the usual suspects. What could possibly be causing this imbalance? Let's investigate the most common culprits. And wow, this chart right here tells a huge part of the story. I mean, just look at that first bar. It's not even close. By a massive margin, the number one cause of a P0171 code is a simple vacuum or air leak. And honestly, that is fantastic news because it often means the fix is way simpler and cheaper than you might be fearing.
So here's what's happening. Your engine has a sensor called the mass airflow sensor that carefully measures all the air coming in. But if a bunch of extra air sneaks in after that sensor through a cracked hose or a leaky gasket, well, the computer never knows about it. So it doesn't add enough fuel to compensate, and boom, you've got a lean condition.
Now, of course, it's not always a vacuum leak. We have to consider the accomplices. It's possible you have a fuel delivery issue, like a weak fuel pump or clogged injectors. It could even be a dirty sensor that's feeding the computer bad info. These are all possibilities, but a good detective always investigates the prime suspect first. All right, detective, enough with the theory. It's time to open up the toolkit and get to work. We're moving into the practical side of things now. I'm going to show you exactly how to find the root cause of this problem, and we're going to start with the easiest and most effective methods first.
Here is our game plan. It's a logical progression. We start simple, just using our eyes and our ears. Look for obvious cracks, listen for hissing sounds. From there, we move to a really cool trick called the spray test. And only after we've done that do we even think about bringing in fancier tools. We always work from most likely and easiest to least likely and hardest.
This is the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, we're talking about a tiny crack in a hose that could be buried deep in the engine bay. It's almost impossible to see with the naked eye. So, how on earth do you find something you can't see? Well, you make it reveal itself. And this right here, this is the single most valuable trick in the book for P0171. Get the engine idling. Then, you just carefully spray short little bursts of something like carb cleaner all around the vacuum hoses and gaskets. When that flammable spray hits the leak, it gets sucked into the engine, and for a split second, it burns as fuel. You'll hear the engine's idle suddenly change. It'll either surge up or smooth out. And right there, my friend, X marks the spot. You've found your leak. Now, if you have a scan tool, you can also look for digital clues. Pull up the live data and look for something called long-term fuel trim, or LTFT.
This number basically tells you how hard the computer is working to correct the fuel mixture. If you see a consistently high positive number, like plus 10% or more, that is a computer practically screaming at you, hey, I'm adding a ton of extra fuel in here to try and compensate for all this extra air. It's a digital confirmation of your lean condition.
So we know what it is, and we've got a solid plan to find it. But let's circle back to those gut punch questions from the beginning. How serious is this, and what's it going to cost me? Let's talk about the stakes.
The good news is, this is not a pull over immediately and shut the car off kind of emergency. The severity is moderate. You can get where you need to go in the short term, but, and this is a big but, you can't just ignore it. Think of it as a serious warning that requires your attention sooner rather than later.
And here's why you can't ignore it. An engine running lean burns much, much hotter than it's designed to. Over time, that extreme heat can do serious, and I mean seriously expensive damage to things like your catalytic converter. A simple fix for a vacuum leak today could save you from a $2,000 converter replacement down the road.
This chart really drives home why our diagnostic strategy is so important. Just look at the potential repair costs. A vacuum leak repair is on the lower end. A fuel pump replacement, that can get pricey really fast. By starting with the most likely cause, the vacuum leak, you're also starting with what is usually the most affordable fix. It just makes sense.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. What the code means, what causes it, how to find it. Now let's distill all of that information down into one simple, powerful takeaway that you can act on the minute this is over.
If you remember absolutely nothing else, remember this golden rule. When you see P0171, your very first thought should be, okay, where's the vacuum leak? Assume it's a leak until you have concrete, undeniable proof that it's something else. This mindset will save you so much time and money.
And this is your mantra. This is your first move. Before you buy a single part, before you start panicking about fuel pumps or expensive sensors, grab a can of carb cleaner. The spray test is your best friend for P0171. Always start there.
And I'll leave you with a final thought to connect the dots. It's really common to see a P0171 code show up with a misfire code, say on cylinder 3. So, could that one single vacuum leak be located right near cylinder 3's intake, starving just that one cylinder and causing it to misfire? Could one leak be the root cause of both problems? Now that is thinking like a real detective.